Hi guys, and welcome back to yet another video where I make your concepts perfect one at a time. My name is Dr. Manjari Bhate. I'm an orthodontist and you're watching Dentistry 101 Orthodontics by Medi Study Go. In today's video, I will be covering the very frequently asked exam question and honestly a very high scoring one, which is the concept of the Andrews 6 Keys of Occlusion. I'll be making the use of a concise mind map, which has been taken from this Orthodontics mind map book by Medi Study Go. This contains several different mind maps that are segregated chapter wise, which make learning as well as quick revisions super easy. So if you already haven't grabbed your copies, you can grab them now from Amazon, Flipkart, Dentalcart, and even the Medi Study Go website. Now let's start by understanding the Andrews 6 Keys of Occlusion. Andrews' full name was Lawrence F. Andrews, and he was an orthodontist. So he used to perform orthodontic treatment on many of his patients. But what he observed by the end of the treatment was that even though he had finished the treatment in a good occlusion, still the patient's facial aesthetics or the functional efficiency was not up to mark. And therefore, he tried to understand if there were any factors or any things that could make the occlusion way better. And therefore, in an attempt to figure out that, he performed studies on 120 individuals or 120 patients who had ideal occlusion. The key term here is ideal occlusion. So these patients were non-orthodontic patients or non-orthodontic individuals. They had never undergone any type of orthodontic intervention. So they had the proper occlusion and ideal occlusion. So he studied the positions of the teeth as well as their entire dentition and their occlusion, and he identified the presence of 6 features that were essential to having the optimal occlusion. And this is how he came up and proposed the 6 keys of static occlusion. When we say static, it does not take into account the jaw movements. This is only the 6 keys to a static occlusion. So now let's see one by one what these 6 keys are. Starting with the first key, which is molar relationship. Now, in the Andrews 6 Keys of Occlusion, he has given 3 important landmarks to establish the proper molar relation. As compared to an angles classification for the molar relation, only one important landmark has been used in order to describe the molar relationship, whereas Andrews has given 3 important criteria. Let's look at these criteria one by one. The first is the mesiobuccal cusp of the upper first molar should occlude with the mesiobuccal groove of the lower first molar. So this is the example of the lower first and the upper first molars. So in the upper first molars, this is the mesiobuccal cusp. Here is the tip of the mesiobuccal cusp, and what they are saying is that this is the groove that is present between the buccal and the mesiobuccal cusps in the lower molar. So the upper mesiobuccal cusp should occlude with the groove that is present in between the mesiobuccal and the buccal cusps of the lower permanent first molar. This is the first criterion for the molar relationship in the first key. The second is that the distal surface of the distobuccal cusp of the upper first molar should occlude with the mesial surface of the mesiobuccal cusp of the lower second molar. So coming back to this diagram, now over here, the distal surface of the distal cusp should occlude with the mesial surface of the mesiobuccal cusp of the lower second molar. So note that this is the lower second molar, and this is a often confusing MCQs. They might ask you 2 different options, with one having a lower first molar and the second option having the second molar. So the answer is that the upper first molar of the maxilla, the distal edge of the distal cusp should occlude with the mesial edge of the mesiobuccal cusp of the lower second molar. This was the second point. And lastly, we have the third point, which is the mesiolingual cusp of the upper first molar should occlude with the central fossa of the lower first molar. So in the lower first molar, take for example, this is the central fossa right here, and in the central fossa, the upper mesiolingual cusp should occlude properly. And these were the first molar relationship, the first key of the Andrews 6 keys of occlusion. Coming to the second, which talks about the crown angulations. So crown angulation is also referred to as tip. Now this refers to the line that passes through the long axis of the clinical crown. The keyword here is the clinical crown. Taking for example, this is a permanent maxillary central incisor. This is the crown portion and this is the root of the central incisor. Now taking the crown, the long axis of the crown, when we take the long axis, there is one portion which is closer to the incisal edge. This is called as the incisal or the occlusal portion, and this portion that is present near the gingival portion is called as the gingival part of the line. So what they're trying to say is that always the gingival portion of this long axis should be distal to the incisal portion. The keyword here is a distal. When there is a gingival portion of the long axis which is distal to the incisal portion, it is said to have a positive tip. In certain cases, or which is the non-ideal occlusion, if the gingival portion is more mesial to the incisal portion, it is termed as a negative tip, and this is not a sign of ideal occlusion. So in all ideal occlusions, remember that the crown angulations or the tip should be positive. Coming to the next, which is the crown inclination, also called as the crown torque. Gingival area placement compared to the occlusal area. So this is seen in the frontal plane, and if you observe the crown from a lateral view, you will be able to appreciate the movements in the frontal plane. So what they're trying to say is that, taking the example of the central incisor again, this is the incisal portion and this is the gingival portion of the crown. Whenever the incisal portion is more buccally or more labially placed and the gingival portion is more palatally inclined, this is a positive crown torque. So this is the positive crown torque, which is very commonly, and it's commonly seen in the maxillary incisors. Now there are some teeth which show a negative crown torque. A negative crown torque is exactly the opposite, where suppose the incisal portion will be more palatal as compared to the gingival portion, and this is commonly seen in the maxillary posteriors as well as the mandibular posteriors. So remember that the posterior teeth have a negative torque, whereas the maxillary incisors have a positive crown torque or a positive crown inclination. So this was how the first 3 keys of the Andrews 6 keys of occlusion are. Let's go to the fourth one, which is rotation. Very important to understand. So any normal occlusion or ideal occlusion should have absence of rotations. There should not be any teeth that are rotated. In case of posterior teeth which are rotated, they tend to occupy more space, whereas anterior teeth, when they are rotated, tend to occupy lesser space. Let's understand this with a small illustration. Taking the example of a posterior tooth. So if you have let's say this is a premolar. This is slightly rotated. This is the axis. A normal tooth which is not rotated will have a straight axis like this. Now ideally, taking the edges, this much would be the space that is occupied with the posterior tooth, that is normal, not rotated. Whereas this is the space that's occupied by a tooth which is rotated, and as you can see that this rotated tooth has a significantly more space that's occupied as compared to a tooth which is normal and not rotated. And therefore posterior teeth, when rotated, do occupy more space than the non-rotated normal teeth. Again, let's take the example of an anterior teeth. So when you look from the occlusal aspect, this is an incisor. So in a normal incisor which is not rotated, this would be the space that is occupied by a normal incisor. Now let's rotate this incisor and see. If this incisor is rotated, in the arch it would still only occupy this much space, and therefore this is the space that it occupies. And therefore, as you can see, that the rotated anterior tooth occupies less space as compared to the tooth that is not rotated. And this is what was being explained here, that posterior teeth occupy more space, whereas anterior teeth occupy less space when they are rotated. Next is the interproximal contact. Interproximal contact, it just means that the contact point between two teeth that are adjacent to each other or are neighboring teeth. In a normal and an ideal contact, they should be tight as well as no presence of any spacings. If there are spacing between the teeth, it's obvious that there is no contact between them. So in a normal occlusion, there shouldn't be any spaces as well as there should be tight contact between the teeth. Coming last to the curve of Spee. So a curve of Spee is defined as an imaginary line, and this line, it extends in the antero-posterior direction. So taking for example, if you view the occlusion, this is the view of the occlusion from the lateral view, this is the anterior part and this is the posterior part. So this is a line, it's an imaginary line which passes from the antero-posterior direction. It touches the tip of the lower canine and also traces the buccal cusps of the lower teeth and extends further backwards. So this is the curve of Spee. Now in a normal ideal occlusion, a curve of Spee should be flat or it should be within 1.5 mm. So flat is the key word over here. A normal occlusion should have a flat curve of Spee. That means the tips of the canine as well as the premolars and the molars all should lie on a same plane, which is just under 1.5 mm deviation from one another. In case there is a deep curve of Spee, this tends to cause a crowding. So let's see what this means. Now this is the example of a very steep curve of Spee or a deep curve of Spee. As you notice that this curve is a quite deep curve, and this means that instead of having a straight line where all the teeth pass through the straight line, here there is a more confinement of the space that is available because all of the teeth are being crammed into a more smaller area, and therefore this can lead to an occurrence of crowding, and therefore a deep curve of Spee is not ideal for correct occlusion because it can lead to crowding. The next is a reverse curve of Spee. So as the term reverse suggests, it is the opposite of a deep curve of Spee, and this provides excessive room leading to spacing of the dentition. Coming back to the diagram, so over here this is an example of a reverse curve of Spee wherein the curve of Spee is like this, and because this is a reverse curve of Spee, there is more area and excessive room that is provided, which can ultimately lead to spacing of the teeth as they are not evenly spread out through a flat curve of Spee. So this was all about the curve of Spee, and we have covered all the 6 keys of occlusion by Andrews. So let's have a quick recap. The first is the molar relationship defined by 3 different landmarks: the mesiobuccal cusp of the upper first molar, occluding with the mesiobuccal groove of the lower first molar. Second point is the distal surface of the distobuccal cusp of the upper first molar, occluding with the mesial surface of the mesiobuccal cusp of the lower second molar. This is the keyword, lower second molar. And finally, the mesiolingual cusp of the upper first molar should occlude in the central fossa of the lower first molar. The second key is the crown angulation, aka tip. All crowns have a positive tip. That means the gingival portion is seen more distally as compared to the incisal portion. Next is the crown inclination, which is also called as crown torque. In maxillary incisors, a positive crown inclination is seen, whereas in the posterior teeth, in the upper as well as the lower arches, a more negative crown torque is seen. Next is the rotation. Absence of rotations should be observed for a normal occlusion. Posterior teeth when rotated occupy more space. Anterior teeth when rotated occupy less space. Next is the interproximal contacts. They should be tight and there should not be any spaces in a normal occlusion. Last but not the least is the curve of Spee, which is an antero-posterior curve which passes from the tip of the canine cusp and it traces the buccal cusps of the remaining posterior teeth and extends further. In a normal occlusion, a flat curve of Spee is desired. If there is a deep curve of Spee, it leads to crowding, and a reverse curve of Spee leads to spacing. So finally, we have completed the 6 keys of occlusion. Now let's go to the MCQ and the flashcard for today. So according to the Andrews third key, the lower posterior teeth show option A, progressively decreasing lingual tip from canine to molars. Lingual tip increases progressively from the canines to the molars. Option C is equal lingual tip throughout, and option D is pure buccal tip throughout. So if you remember what we saw in the crown inclination, all of the posterior teeth have a negative inclination, and therefore any option which is showing a buccal tip should be eliminated. So option D is completely eliminated right from the beginning, and also option C, equal lingual tip throughout, is not correct. As we go from the canines to the molars, the tip gradually changes. This brings us to option A and option B. What could be the answer? So the answer is that, yes, the answer is B, which is lingual tip increases progressively from the canine to the molar. So remember this, that in the mandibular arch, the lingual tip gradually increases from the canine to the molar. Next is the flashcard for today. Now, positive crown inclination is seen in. So the MCQ is all about the posterior teeth. This is all about the anterior teeth, especially the maxillary incisors, because the maxillary incisors show a positive crown inclination. So these were the MCQs and flashcards, and if you want to access more such MCQs as well as flashcards, you can head to the Medi Study Go app, which you can download from the App Store as well as the Play Store. And you can access all of our other study materials like mind maps, notes, videos, flashcards, MCQs, and many more such material. And if you have liked this video, you can give it a like and subscribe to our channel and share it with all of your friends. So until next time, this is Dr. Manjari Bhate signing off. Keep studying and keep practicing with Medi Study Go. Thank you.